Good afternoon, everyone. Media claims that the Netherlands' hottest ever, but they forgot about the Great Solar Year, where it was so hot that they thought generations in the future would talk about how hot it was. Mysterious plasma fireball hovering in the skies, Chile. Take a look at the petroglyphs match. Quebec and Canada moving ahead with mandatory dates for winter tires 2 weeks earlier. An extra 14 days of wear. You know they're going to need it because just right at the border with Canada, all-time record snows already this early in the year. And how ready are you for emergencies? My Patriot Supply and Adapt 2030, the 2-week grab-and-go food crate, or the 4-week food supply. The link's in the description box below. It's a way to get prepared for these changes and also a way to support the Adapt 2030 channel. Going to start you off here about 450 plus years ago. Latest hot summer in the Netherlands is not a sign of man-made global warming, although it's been hot in the Netherlands. But remember, those temperatures in the official stations don't go back any more than 125 years. But let's take an account of history. Going back to 1540, the heat lasted so long in the year 1540 that it was recorded in the history books as the Great Solar Year. So intense, so all-encompassing was this heat wave, they thought generations will continue to talk about the hottest summer ever. This is back in the mid-1500s. But then the following year, the summer 1541, reverted straight back to the typical type of summer in Amsterdam, cold and wet, before they descended into the little ice age. So I'm wondering if this last boost of heat is what we get before we descend into the Grand Solar Minimum, little ice age phase of dropping cooler temperatures globally. Seems we're right on the cusp there. Take a look at this lithograph included in the article. Amsterdam, 1540, still showing the canals and inbound ship routes there into the harbor. Now continuing on the story here, 1540 was particularly hot all over Europe, just like we're seeing today. You know, they're saying French heat records, Dutch heat records, German heat records. Well, we see the exact same thing 4 centuries earlier. And we even have a Dutch author here describing it as harvests failed, drinking water was hardly available, and diseases were rampant. And they also had a mouse plague on top of that in the Netherlands at the time. Do you see any similarities? And then continuing on to the last part of the article, others started to put a correlation of how the heat stations and the runaway global warming narrative in the media is, well, not exactly true. For example, Vancouver had higher record temperatures in 1910 than 2017. Toronto had a warmer summer in 1852 than 2017. Highest temperatures in Moncton 2017 were 4 degrees cooler than 1906. How about Brandon? High temperatures of 43 degrees Celsius that year compared to 34 degrees Celsius. You know, when it hit 34, they're like, oh, it's a runaway heat wave. Never had this hot before, ever. Except, wait a second, you forgot to go back into the Dust Bowl era. And they routinely do this in these newscasts and these featured heat stories. They forget the Dust Bowl. They conveniently forget written records that show something warmer in a cycle that occurred a century or two before. It's just all about now. It can only be the satellite record. The only temperatures that really count are since 1979. Didn't you get the memo? And with the magnetosphere weakening due to the magnetic pole reversal underway, along with this Grand Solar Minimum happening at the exact same time, we would expect globally to see more sky phenomenon, plasma, you know, the plasma rope Steve and all these electrical sprites and blue jets and just a higher ionized or electrically charged atmosphere. And here we go. Mysterious plasma ball hovering X-Files style. No, it's actually about a 12,000 year cycle that the ancients saw that carved what they'd witnessed into the rocks, those that survived. Also, when we get to a very highly charged state in our atmosphere, you see Squatter Man and other things that the ancients had also put on the rock faces in the cliffs, Chaco Canyon being one of the most famous. Now here we are again. This is down in Chile, October 3rd. Mysterious plasma ball hovering in the sky. Electrical phenomenon? Absolutely. So I just jumped over onto a search engine and looked at the images there of circular petroglyphs. This matches very well with what they see. Now, if this becomes more intense and starts vibrating and taking shape, well, you're seeing the same thing right here. Ancients were far smarter than we give them credit for, and what they witnessed is what they wrote on the rocks, what they carved in for us as a warning, as a memory to get ready when you see this in the skies beginning. The cycle is upon us again. Moving on to Canada, up in Quebec. They move ahead with mandatory dates for winter tires. 2 weeks early is the new law. Now before, it was December 15th that you had to put on your tires, and they go through all the safety numbers. It's a really well-written article. I linked it in the description box below. If you want to know about winter driving conditions and the safety of winter tires, you got to read this article. But the new mandatory starts December 1st now in 2019. So my question is, why did they push the date up 2 weeks? Extra 14 days on the road. Now, you could go into this, they're trying to sell more tires and whatnot, but somebody must know something, because this year's winter storms already in Montana, British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, breaking all-time records, snow records ever set, and cold records back to 1870. It was only the last week of September and the first days of October. That December 1st date is like 2 months too early. They might have to put winter snow tires on beginning September 30th from this point forward. And the British Columbia article here, multiple cold records toppled. Did you see that in your news feed, or did they just talk about the Netherlands heat? Everything's linked in the description box below. This is off electroverse.net. All the data's in front of you. Governments are behaving strangely, and somehow you're just left out of the loop with a bunch of global warming headlines purveying the newspapers and magazines. And my co-author Bill Porter and myself talk about this in Climate Revolution, the Grand Solar Minimum. We even put timelines into how intense the weather's going to get, when the food prices are coming, and how governments are going to distract you during this entire time. I do thank you for watching. That link's in the description box below for Climate Revolution. And again, it's another way to support the channel as demonetization sweeps through any channels that don't kowtow to the narrative. And I will see you next video.